I'm going to take this quilt off and then let me see. Let me have you see me because I kind of messed up. And I thought you'd like to see me fix it. You'd like to see me fix something while it's live. It may be chaotic. It may be not as smooth as I want it to be. Hopefully this stupid camera focuses. There it is. It should be focused on me now. So, welcome to my live. I just worked on this quilt. And I'm going to take her down and show you what she looks like. But I ended up getting a pleat in the back. Hi, how are you today? See if I could get a live in. So I'm going to move everything back. And then you can see the quilt from different angles. And here's a different angle here. And I'm going to move her so you could delight in her and see her. And if you're here, please comment, do you hear me well? Now I panic every time I do a live. Can you hear me? Do I sound okay? So I need to fix some things here on this quilt, but I'll showcase the quilt. Yeah, let's see. She's a lovely quilt. She's a 120 by 99, so she's a really big quilt. I've been up here for hours. I wanted to start this live stream earlier. Hold on, let me see if I could get you. I wanted to start this live stream earlier. Let me see, can you see? So she could see, so she could be so pretty. But everything that could go wrong has gone wrong. But it's okay. That happens. Let's see, I need to take her off the leaders. And I need to fix some things on her. And I thought it'd be fun bringing you with me while I have a quilt torturing me. No, she's torturing me. No, she's not torturing me. She's giving me a hard time. We have to end the year with a bang. Right? So that's this one. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. If not, I'm sorry. I apologize. It's a live stream. That's how live streams go. Let's see, I want you to see the quilt because she's really pretty. I'm going to move you here. So that's where she is. Okay, super clear, good. Hello, Brian, how are you? Let's see, Tammy, nice to hear from you. Nice to hear. Thank you for being here. So this is the quilt. I'm having leader problems. Okay. I'm going to have to take her off and put her back on because I'll show you. It's kind of sad when this happens. I thought I could fix her on the sewing machine, but apparently I have bobbin problems. I hope you can see that I'm out of your way. I don't know what happened here. The leader won't even open. Should have taken her off before the live, I guess. Having zipper leader problems. Wow. Hold on 1 second. Okay, I got her. So let me show her to you. She's a beautiful, beautiful quilt. She's a huge quilt. I even was kind of questioning if I had enough. I have a smaller frame machine. My machine is a 12.5 feet or 12.5. No, she's 11.5. So instead of getting a big machine, I got a bit smaller. Can you see how beautiful she is? Let me move you here. Isn't she lovely? She's beautiful. She's huge. She's 99 by 120. But the problem is, sometimes when you do giant quilts like this, the back fabrics like pleating on me. They like to pleat. And let me get something. Let me see how y'all are. Yeah, she's an Irish quilt. And she's pretty. And then I also put a really pretty, that weird same Irish symbol, and I quilted that on there. But let me show you the problem. And I'll turn her around. God, this thing is huge. Let me see. Yeah, you'll see it now. Which is so frustrating. I was trying to make sure that the back fabric wouldn't pleat in the beginning when I started long arming. I don't know if you can see it. But what happened is, for some reason, and let me just share, I pull the fabric like it's no other, and I'm going to bring you here so you can see it. Hopefully you're on the right camera. Do you see this? She's kind of sad. Let me see if I could see that you see it. Do you see that pleat? All this is a pleat. And I thought maybe you guys would enjoy seeing me fix it. Because when I was a beginner long armor, this is what would give me cold sweats, freak the hell out of me, make me go into a panic and fall apart. And I realized that in long arm quilting, everything can get fixed. So you can see it there. Let me move the camera this way. But I hope you don't mind watching me fix this. And hi everybody. Yeah, she's a beautiful quilt. I kind of decided to take quite a bit of a break because Girlfriends is burnt out from working so much. I even got a couple jobs that I just kind of didn't want to deal with. And so, can you see this well? Let me see. I think you can see it well, but let me move you on this camera. For some reason, this camera has a better quality, a crisper color. And I'm going to put you on that camera. Maybe not. Can you see better on this one? Hi, June, how are you? Or that one. So this is how I'm going to fix it. I'm going to share with you how I handle this. Maybe I should zip it back on the zipper leader and then roll it. So if you give me a second, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this quilt back on the long arm, but backwards or upside down. And the reason I'm going to put it upside down is so that I have a totter table and I could unpick all this and kind of clean it up. And then I could also get the camera in a better angle for you. So I wanted to know, how was your Christmas? And are you ready for the new year? I literally wanted to do Vlogmas. Oh, but God, the holidays are so stressful for me. So stressful. All right, let me move everything for you so that you guys could see. I had like a lot of people in my house for a lot of days. And we're doing New Year's tomorrow. I wonder what camera I have you on. All right, I'm going to move you here. And I'm sorry if I walk in front of you. This is good to see? I think so. Okay. All right, let's see. I'm going to put this on the leader. I don't know if you saw that I flipped it so that this is the back now. And I also do this when I'm custom quilting, when I'm cleaning a custom quilt. Come on, please, leaders. Do your job. I was going to do a live stream yet tomorrow. And I'm going to work for a couple clients tomorrow. Let's see. Let's see if I could get it to stop. There it is. But I thought, since this kind of screwed up on me, that this would be a good video to share how you can fix it without having to unstitch a whole row, because some people would to unstitch a whole row to fix this, and you don't. Hold on. I hope it's okay that you're watching a pure white quilt, because now we're dealing with the back fabric. So I'm going to keep rolling it. And this is a client's quilt. And I've had some other long armers refuse to fix this mistake. And this is a long arm quilter's mistake. And the reason it's like this is my mistake, because I believe I did pull the fabric back enough, but it's still pleated. And that means I should have been checking. There it is. I should have been checking the back fabric that there was no pleats, but I didn't do that. The one time I don't do it, and it got pleated, which is horrible. I'm gonna put one more leader on. I need to add more zippers. And so here's the pleat. Let me see one more. All right, there it is. I'm going to roll this bottom part. And then I'm going to roll it so you can see it. And I'm going to bring it in so you can see it real well. Sorry. There it is. You can see it here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to unstitch it. You're doing paper piecing? What are you paper piecing? So I'm going to give you two views. You're going to get a close-up, and you're going to get me picking the quilt. Great views. And before I do that, let me go here on this one, on this footage. All right, so before I do that, I'm going to mark this design. And hopefully you can see me. Hey, how are you? How you doing? Okay, let's go down. Let me bring you down, down, down. All right, so it didn't pleat here, but it started pleating here. So I'm going to mark it, and I'm going to mark where it pleated. And it pleated here. And what I'm marking is I'm marking the thread line. Okay, so this pleat went all the way down, and I should roll it a little bit so you can see it more. It went all the way down, probably a whole row. And a lot of other long armers, what they would do is they would go ahead, and this is why this can be catastrophic. It would make them think that they need to start unstitching the whole row. And you don't have to unstitch a whole row, because what I'm going to do is see, in here it's not pleated, but it's pleated here. So I hope you can see the whole, like the whole run. So what I'm going to do, and I'm going to kind of follow this design. And the reason I put it back on the long arm is I can manually unstitch all this and get rid of, because this is going to become a fullness. And I could get rid of and iron the fullness out. So I'm going to get, and I marked it with a water-soluble pencil. And I'm going to get my nippers. And I'm going to just start nipping. I remember one time I went to a girl, this quilt shop, and the owner, the husband was a long armer, and he didn't know what he was doing. And she literally had this kind of a pleat. Do you see how I took it out right there? And she was crying because the pleat went all the way across like 2 rows. And it's really hard to realign from like, it's really hard to honestly find the design and realign the design. And the reason you saw me marking it is so that I could go back and just manually quilt it. And that's why I put the quilt on backwards. So I'm going to long arm kind of like the back side. So you see me here, I'm unstitching just little. I'm going to probably unstitch more than 1.5 inches, maybe 2 inches, to get the fabric to have room. Because see, do you see that pleat? That pleat is extra fabric now. You see that? When I saw this, I was like, oh no. But I'm like, it's fine. I know how to fix it. I know how to fix this. And I know how to handle it. I'm going to probably take this whole loop here. And can you hear me well? I'm going to move you over here so I can see. So I can see your comments. All right, you said you're interested in... You're interested in seeing how I fix it. Okay, so I'm sharing with you right now. I put it on the long arm backwards, and then I marked where the thread, the design of the thread, okay? I'm also removing the stitches, and I tend to remove about 1 inch or 2. Then I'm gonna turn around, and here, like, I don't know if you can see it up close. Let me see if I could get you closer. Here, there's a loop. Wait a minute, right there. Right here, there's a loop. I may get rid of that whole loop and just unstitch it. And I may not. This depends on how this fabric kind of moves. And so like right here, I'm going to just remove this loop. I could literally just long arm a brand new loop manually. There you go. And what I do is I pull the thread, and then you see it would be the bobbin thread that underneath. Grab that bobbin thread and just pull. So now I just undid this whole loop, and that's why I marked it. This one, I could go ahead and maybe unstitch 3 more stitches. I got rid of my dogs too. I unstitched 3 more stitches, and see how it could flatten? See how I can flatten it? Now, you still have a little bit of that pleat, but it's flatter. And if you could flatten the fabric, then you're also getting rid of the fullness. Like right here, do you see how I can't flatten it? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring you higher. I'm going to bring you closer. I'm going to unstitch more stitches. And I'm serious, when I first started, this was the reason to cry about, because that means you were going to sit down and unstitch a whole bunch of stitches and get rid of a whole row, and then go back and put it on the long arm. Do you see how I unstitch a couple stitches and now this fabric can flatten? And that's kind of like a rule for me. If I could flatten it, I could also iron it out. So in a minute, right now I'm getting my iron hot. Do you see that pleat? That's not horrible. Horrible at all. And sometimes you don't catch this until after you literally roll the quilt up and you're like, what just happened? Do you see how now, and it still doesn't flatten? That means that I need to get rid of more fabric or thread and open it up a little bit more, which I'm going to open it to here. I thought this would be an interesting video, because I remember when I did long arm quilting, no one showed this stuff. No one. And I struggled so much. And then honestly, I've learned that if you could quilt it, you could fix it. So do you see how I gave myself space there? And then now I could kind of flatten it. I may give myself more. And then, let's see. I have my dogs outside because they were barking in here. I was like so mad at them. And now that they're at the door whimpering, let us in, Mom. And it's kind of late. I don't know. Can you see, or my hand's in the way? Oh my God. Tell me if my hands are in the way. Okay. I'm so bored. The lady's showing her hands. Okay. Do you see how I could kind of flatten it here? Okay, then this one. Okay, so I kind of flattened it. There's no pleat here, but there is a pleat here. And if you can't flatten it, that means you need to unstitch a little bit more. Do you see how I could flatten it? Not really. And I'm already done with this quilt, but when I rolled it, I was like, wow. Okay, so I've unstitched quite a bit. I may unstitch a little bit more here. And then I'm gonna get my iron, okay? Hold on. Let me see if I ever finish. I would love that. Bring me any quilt you want. All right, let me get an iron, and it's already hot. And you want an iron that has steam on it. I remember one time someone told me that, so I'm ironing, hold on. Sorry guys, let me pull you out. If you hear my dogs, I'm sorry. So I have my iron and it's steaming. And I'm gonna go where I just undid the pleat, and I'm gonna draw that fabric in with steam. Do you see that? Isn't that beautiful? Do you see that? Oh my God, I'm so happy. Do you see how beautiful it drew in that fabric? If you could flatten it, you could draw it in with that steam. And then I'm gonna just keep on ironing it, but you want steam. Hold on. What do you think? It's completely flat. Do you see that? No, nothing. Well, maybe a little bit here. Maybe. Where does this go? Okay, so this goes here. Okay, let me take the belts off my long arm, and then I'm gonna go ahead and fix that and quilt it. So on my machine, it has a computerized system. I don't want to use a computer. Well, I could literally flip the quilt. I can flip the quilt, and I could find the pattern and align the pattern to the quilt. That takes a really long time, and it's a real pain in the butt. It really is. So what I found is practicing your long arm quilting skills is very important, because then you could trust yourself to manually quilt it yourself, and you don't need the computer. You don't need to realign the design. You don't need to do any of that, because you can do it manually. So here's my long arm. I'm going to stop it. And here I have 12 stitches per square inch, and I'm going to get a little ruler. Doesn't have to be a big ruler, and if you want to, I'm going to use my little table. I don't have to, but I could, because I'm going to use a little ruler to make sure that when I follow the line, that the line is nice and straight, and it looks as if a computer did it. So I'm going to move this, and I'm going to move it on the other side and put the bar in there. All right, let's see. Hope it's okay that you're watching my white fabric. Hopefully it does good quality. I was so annoyed the other day when I did the live stream, one of the cameras wouldn't focus. I was like, oh. But I think as I keep doing live streams, I'll keep getting better. Why is it? Okay. I'm gonna get the eye of the needle. So, how does this go? Okay, so there's 2 lines here, and because I ironed them, the lines don't look exact. like the way I had them. It doesn't matter. I just need to line up this stitch to this stitch. And so I'm going to bring my long arm down. I'm going to do some locking stitches. And then the other line is here. Oh no. So here's, and you want it to look in such a way as if the computer did it. So here's another set of locking stitches. I'm going to lock right here. Can you see well? Do I need to bring you closer? And in a minute, when I'm kind of getting this is going to go all the way across and down. Since I ironed it, this is completely flat. And I'm just going to reconnect to the original thread line. Did I go all the way up? Yeah, that's good. I got it in. So I got 2 lines connected. So here it's supposed to be, what happened to my marking pen? I need a marking pen. I'm not letting you in, Cookie. So I'm going to use a disappearing marking pen. This is supposed to go, it goes this way and this way. Now it's shifted because it had all that giant, it had a big giant pleat. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move some of the fullness in this way. And I'm going to kind of draw freehand the design. It shifted because when I drew it, it had that pleat on it. And so I'm going to go ahead and start here. Just find your starting spot where you see the stitches. Just like that. I don't know why my machine does this now. Okay, so that's done. And I know it's not perfectly, well, I kind of went down too much, but it's okay. So when the quilt is washed, this is going to puff up, this will puff up. Now this, I have quite a little bit of fullness still, but if do you hear my dog crying? Maybe I'll let her in. Okay, let me let her in. See how I trimmed it and now the fullness is spread out? Oh, you guys. Go to your bed. Okay, I'm going to get you closer so you can see. I hope this helps. I want you to see this, okay? So I just trimmed a little bit more stitches here, so I had more space. I could get my iron, but I don't think I need it. I think I could work it. Maybe I can, maybe I can't. Let's start here. And okay, and then I'm gonna scratch. I call it cat scratch. Someone says moving the fullness. It doesn't matter. You're just moving the fabric, like kind of moving it. Do you see how I'm moving it? You can move it this way, or I call it cat scratch, okay? That's my version of it. It's really just taking in the fullness. Someone corrected me on my comment line, which is fine. Thank you for correcting me. Okay, so I'm gonna start kind of drawing in that fullness as if my hands are the feed dog foot. And now I fix that. And there's no pleat. There is rippling, but there's no pleat at all. I'm going to send you outside, little girls. No, go outside. Stop it. Let me iron it real quick so you can see that there's no pleat. And just be patient with me. Once I'm done with this, I'll look at your comments. I'll answer. Do you see how all the fullness is gone? And I've worked on these two, this area, and these two areas. Now I'm going to work on these areas. I don't know if you can see it. Hold on. I'm going to work over here. I may have to roll the quilt. Yeah. So I'm going to roll the quilt up. But now you can see that there's no fullness. And I could wet this, and this should disappear. So I'm going to undo. And this is a way of fixing pleats in the back without having to unstitch a whole row. This is a beautiful way. We're going to work on here. Let me see your comments. Let's see. Let me see your comments. Someone asked me if, let me get you to focus over here. You can use starch if when you ironed it, it didn't take in. I would use kind of like a liquid starch, not necessarily a spray starch, because the spray starch will leave like a film on the white fabric or on the fabric. There's a spray starch you can use. But yeah, or you could re-wet it, re-iron it, and then starch it. But the less you put on there, and if it doesn't take up the way you want it to, open the stitches a little bit more. And if you open those stitches more, it'll give you the space to take in that fabric when you iron it. Okay, your long arm, whoever is doing the borders on the long arm on their quilts, they're sewing them on the bias, and so it stretches. Also too, they're not measuring. One way of fixing border problems, you could take in a pleat if you have to. Oh God, hold on. You could take in a pleat if you want to. You can go ahead, and I have some videos on my YouTube channel on how to sew borders on. One is no wavy borders. I think that's the title of the video. I also did another video on why you have wavy borders. A lot of people tend to they tend to cut the border on the fabric that has a lot of bias, and then they don't measure the top, center, and bottom, add the numbers, and then divide it by 3. Add the numbers and divide it by 3, and that's the size of your top and bottom border. They don't measure, and then draw the fabric in or draw the fabric out, and that's called squaring up your quilt. And that's why you have borders that stretch out and bow, because I think in the video that I did is you measure the top, you measure the center, you measure the bottom. That's how I do it. Add the 3 numbers and divide. So let's say it's 30 in the 10 at the top, 10 at the center, 10 at the bottom. So you have 30, and divide that by 2. Your border should be, am I doing it right? I don't know if I'm doing it right. 90 divided by 2. Hold on, let me think. 90 divided by 2. I don't know. Okay, I messed up. 30 divided by 2, so it would be 15. No, if your borders, no, it would be 10. I don't know. I have a video on it. I'm sorry. I'm kind of like tired, so I can't think math right now. But I have videos on it on the wavy border, and it'll help you not have borders that stretch on you. And that means the quilt top itself probably has triangles, or it has areas where it has some bias. Stop. Get out. Stop it. Hold on. Let me get them out. Get out. And but I do have videos. Right now, my mathin' is not mathin'. Go inside. Okay. So let me finish this bottom area. But yes, I do have videos, and maybe I'll post them on the information bar here. Hold on. You do not bark in here. Okay, let me finish. But yes, I do have videos where I work on clients' quilts and I have to fix the borders. Sometimes too, you could either, oh God, you could literally add a pleat and pleat it in such a way that it looks like another seam, and then hand stitch it for your client. I've done that. There's ways of doing it. Let me see where I'm at here. All right. Let me put my glasses on. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to stitch a couple stitches here. Let me make sure my camera's on. Sometimes I'm not paying attention. Yes, my camera's on. Yes, on pleating your quilt, the border really does help. And it's just that whoever did the quilt just and look, when I first started, I didn't know that I would just get a strip of fabric and I would just go crazy and then start sewing. I would just cut strips and sew. And I never measured the top and bottom and center and got a measurement so that I would square up the quilt. As a matter of fact, I used to get like wings on my quilts. Let me see if I could. And I remember a lady who long armed my quilt. She was the kind where you rented the quilt while you were there with her. And I rented from her. And she's like, yeah, you didn't sew the border right. I just didn't understand what she was talking to me about. But now as I've become a long armer, it is something that I have to, can you see me with my arm in your way? I'm so sorry. Let me see. Did I get it? Yeah, I got it. Okay, I'm on there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wet everything. I fixed this. Praise the Lord. Look at that. It's not perfect. You can still see a little bit of fullness, but there's no pleats. When my client washes her quilt, of course, that batting underneath is going to fluff up, and this cotton is going to fluff up really pretty for her. And then she's going to be lovely. I was going to do this on my sewing machine. Thank God the bobbin. So I'm going to go ahead and just wet the fabric. And then as I wet the fabric, I'm also going to, did I not do a very good stitch there? I did not do a very good stitch there. Meaning I didn't connect to the other end where I unstitched. And then I'm going to go back and clean up all that. Let me get more water. Let me get more agüita. And then I'm going to iron too. So I wanted to ask y'all, how was your holidays? Holidays are not my favorite. I think they add a whole bunch of stress. I kind of like my regular, boring life. A lot of people love the holidays because it changes, it changes the routine. So I'm wetting it really good, and I'm gonna get my iron. And I'm gonna iron it. Let's see. Like a little bit of I wobbled in a couple spots, but once this dries up, you're not even going to notice that there's any difference from one area of the quilt to another. Even though I notice, and it drives me crazy because this should have been shallow. Let's see. So I'm going to take it off the long arm, and I'm going to put another quilt on the long arm and get it ready to be long arm. So I'm going to switch the camera so you can have a better view of me like taking everything off. Let's see. Let's move you here. And let's move all the cameras out of the way so that I could go ahead and start. And that's how I fix the back fabric for my clients. But if you ever get a quilt like this from a long armer, you force her to fix it. Tell her to fix it. And it is fixable. And some long armers will have to take away or take off they may have to unstitch the whole thing because they don't know what they're doing. And a lot of long armers will not fix it because they know that it's a pain in the butt to fix. It is a hassle to fix, but I just made it real simple for everybody to see. Let me see. In a minute, I'll unravel it. I'm gonna put another quilt on here. I got a couple quilts recently that I was like, I just didn't want to work. Like, I'm not doing it. Let me see. Come on, come on. So I'm putting this quilt on here. Taking this quilt off of here. Can you imagine? This is like a 120 by 99. This is a massive quilt. Let me get this quilt. And I usually do it this way. I like having a shorter transfer, meaning setup time. If you pin your leaders, you're going to have a really long setup time. If you sew your leaders with a basting stitch, you'll have a quicker, a faster time to set up from one quilt to another. Let me see. So here's this quilt. And I already wound all the bobbins for her. Let me show you. Oh. Here's the batting. Can y'all see me? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set up this quilt, and then I'm going to be finished for the day. For some reason, to quilt that massive quilt, it probably took me 3 to 4 hours to quilt. This one was going to take me, it may take me a little bit longer because the client is wanting a little bit more complicated design. And let me see. Can you imagine? Let me see. I wanted to do a video of the best and worst of this year, like the highlights of this year and the hard times of this year. Maybe I could do it right now, like in the live stream. Hold on. Am I putting it on wrong? Yeah. Okay. Hopefully this is right. And I already wound the bobbins. So what when I do sometimes is when I'm working on one quilt or it's long arming, I'm prepping the other quilt. So like this is such a quick transition. What, it took me like 5-10 minutes, maybe less. I'm not gonna long arm her because it's getting late, but I am preparing her. So when I come here tomorrow, I was gonna use this as a live stream, but I think the design is gonna be too complicated. And I pull everything up, fold her so she's not hanging on the floor. Then I turn everything off. In a minute, I'm gonna go check out your comments. Okay. Yes. Yes. No, cancel. All right, let's see. Then, all right, let the computer shut off. And then I'm gonna bring you over here. Hold on. I'm gonna bring you over here. Hello, how are you? Then I'm gonna answer your comments. I'm gonna go ahead while we're here. I was thinking of trimming this quilt, but God, she's so heavy. Okay, look how beautiful she is. I'm gonna take the leaders. I love the basting leaders, or basting my leaders, because takeoff is so easy. Then I'm gonna put this on the long arm because she's so heavy. I'm gonna move her here. Can you see me? Let me move. Come on, Lorena, keep up with the live stream. Pay attention. You're not just working right now. Okay. But look, also to work, can I see the front where I long armed it? I want you to see the front where I long armed it and fixed it. Where's the wet spot? Okay, here's the wet spot. Okay, you can see some of the stitches. Yeah, I need to fix that. Okay, let me see. Let me look at your comments and let me fold everything, and then I'll sit down and chat with y'all. That's what makes live streams fun. So this is where it is. I got rules, I got them. I need to clean up that area because it's from underneath. You can see how big this thing is. And then I'm going to trim it for my quilt, my client. But, you know, the area that I was working on, there's some extra stitches, overgrown stitches, and I need to go through it and clean it. All right, so let me move you here so you can look at me. Hello, how are you? How you been? And then also look at your comments. I'm gonna move you here. I'm gonna move you down so I can sit down. And let's see how it is, how we are. And I'm gonna move this over here because this thing has the comments so I can read them. All right, let's see. Let's see how you guys are saying. I have problems with borders. Okay, I answered that. I have a video. Let's see. You got banned from a quilt store because you had the long armor fix your quilt? That's like bad business. I honestly think that you should give your client a better version of her quilt, meaning even though her quilt may not be perfect, like you've seen my quilts, right? I've gotten some really bad piecers. Not that they're bad piecers. No one's bad. Let me reword it. I'm a bad piecer sometimes, or I call myself a bad piecer. It's just like I'm not perfect at it. And not that that's a bad thing or a good thing. It's just sometimes I don't want to fix stuff when I'm already frustrated. When I was working on a banner, and you just get frustrated sometimes when you're piecing and you just don't want to deal with it anymore. But I think like if you're a long armor, you're going to get quilts that are not sewn right. For example, on some of her borders, like when you're sewing two borders together and you're just going along, but you didn't check the back side. So it's like the thread is on the edge of the fabric and it's pulling away from the seam. And I went ahead and I fixed it for her. Not that I had to fix it for her, but I wanted her to, like, that was such an easy fix, just getting my sewing machine and put a 1/4-inch seam on there and kind of unstitch the area and not have an open seam on the long arm. But I think it's bad business when a long armor is not willing to fix stuff. I'm sorry they did that to you. She said, I want you to do your job. That's what you tell her. I want you to fix the quilt and do a job. That's rude. You wanted her to fix it because it was a gift. I'm glad you're learning a lot from me. I didn't have no one to help me. No one. And, Leah Day one time made a comment, and I know it was about me, because I was talking about how, okay, I don't think it's wrong for me to share quilts that are warped, that the borders are off, that, like, my clients don't care, or they don't say that they care. Maybe they do care and they don't come back to me, but I feel like it's a learning opportunity, even for me, on learning how to fix something. I'm learning how to fix something, and I'm sharing with you how to fix it, because sooner or later long armors are gonna have quilts like I have, because not everybody is a perfect piecer. Not everybody, like the client with the blue quilt. I'm going to share it with that blue quilt. She literally starches the hell out of her fabric, and her fabric feels like cardboard. It's not cardboard, but it's that flat. And her quilts don't shift at all because of the amount of starch she uses. But when I sit down in piece, I do not sit down. Well, I am doing one of those pixel quilts, and I did spend literally hours and hours starching tons of fabric, which I haven't started. I think I cut some of the fabrics already, but I haven't cut the fabrics because I was so tired from the starching. And also too, I don't have the amount of time to be spending on such an act as starching my fabric. For me personally, it's just not something I love and not something I want to do. But I think we're all learning. And fabric, sometimes you could piece the most perfect square, like block, and then someone just shows it and pulls it in the corners, and the bias of the quilt just stretches on you and you don't even know you stretched it. So it's not, I think long armors should be flexible enough and have knowledge to just fix it. I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. Let's see. Let me see your comments. I'm glad you use zipper leaders. Best thing ever, right? Right now, I put the zipper leaders backwards. I was so mad at myself that I go, no, just take it off. And I was like, well, you could pin it. And I'm like, no, just take it off the long arm. But I was getting frustrated because the back fabric was so much. It was a lot. I'm so sorry. The long armor had your quilt for 7 months. Marlene, I'm so sorry. That's horrible. Now, this quilt, the blue one, and this chevron, I probably had for like a month and a half, but I've had it. Stop. Ugh. No. I had it for a month and a half, but she's so cute. Look, um, they said they didn't need it right away. And I also feel like they're giving me the quilts on the busiest time, like December is crazy for me. And so since they said take your time, like now that this Christmas is gone and we're going into the new year, I wanted to finish them before the new year for them. But they also know that it's coming. All right, let's see. Let's see. I'm glad you like me demonstrating how to fix my mistake. And I still need to clean it up and make sure it's a nice clean stitch. Let's see. I'll answer your question right now. Oh, you ended up getting a long arm? Yeah, sometimes it's better when you do it yourself because you. So our church said, why do some long armers have difficulty with minky batting? Minky backing or a minky back. Uh, one of the things that I have a video that I figured out that minky back fabric has this stretch, and it's a large stretch, like a bias stretch. For example, on one client's quilt, she barely gave me any, and I stretched it so that it would fit. And then when I let it go, it drew in. I also told her that if she wouldn't give it back to me, she just took it the way it was, that she gave it back to me, I could unstitch it. But because she didn't give me enough edging to grab it, I ended up stretching it so much that I didn't know that when I let it go with the clamps that it just drew in. There shouldn't be a problem for long armers to do back fabric with Minky. You just need to give them more fabric. Another thing with Minky is that if it's a long fiber Minky, you will have fiber going up to the top. When the needle goes down and pulls that thread back up, you'll have Minky hairs on the top. But once you wash that quilt, the Minky will kind of go back to where it should be. I think some long armers are just scared because they don't know how to use that fabric. I don't think, someone was telling me it's a weird, like, to quilt the quilt backwards, to pin the quilt top on the underneath, or put the quilt top, this lady did this, she had her fabric on extra like muslin on the top of the quilt and muslin on the side of the quilt and on the bottom, and she put it on the back like a back fabric, and then put the Minky on top and then quilted that way. I just think that's a waste of time. I don't think it's that complicated, but because you don't know what you're doing, you'll complicate it. I think that just having extra fabric and also putting the leaders where the stretches, where the major stretches. So you know, when you stretch it, it stretches like this, but there's an area where you barely stretch. Have that be the sides. And then where the major stretches, put the leaders on there. This way you control the stretch better. But people don't know that, and that's what I learned. If you're putting it where it's that big, long stretch, when you're rolling it and pulling it, you're overstretching it. And then when you let it go, it draws in and it kind of shrinks the quilt. But if you do it the opposite way on how you put it on the leaders, you don't have that problem because the major stretch is on the leaders and you're not stretching it this way. Anyway, it's how it stretches, and that's why they have a hard time. And some people just don't do it enough. It's not a common thing or a common fabric that people long arm with. That, yeah, they just struggle. But that's my rule. Put where the major stretches, put that leader on, and where the lighter, less stretches, have that go and roll. And so, and control how much you stretch it. Don't overstretch it. And then you shouldn't have a problem. And honestly, Minky for me is my favorite back fabric to use. Oh my God, I will not lay on a quilt unless it's on a Minky. Or those are the quilts I keep. I'm sorry. You brought in 2 quilts a month and always brought a ton of fabric. when I drop things off. I'm sorry you were so disappointed. Like, yeah, long arms are expensive, Debbie and Clarissa. Hopefully I say your name right. I always, let me see. I'm answering your questions, okay? So if you have questions, I'm going scrolling down looking. So if I'm looking this way, I'm looking at a screen, then I'm looking at you to answer you. Okay. Yes, fabric moves, but like you just saw, like I pleated, right? The blessing is that it does move. If it would have pleated and it didn't move, it wouldn't have shrunk in. And then you have that problem that I had. And you can't fix it. The blessing is it does move, and you could just use hot water or water and an iron or iron with steam. But yeah, and honestly, it's not that deep. It's just fabric. It's just a quilt. You had to rip off a whole pass on the last quilt that I had on. Yeah, I've done it too. That makes you a good long armer or a good quilter. I think that I've literally had to unquilt 3 rows. And the reason I had to unquilt 3 rows is because I thought I put it like the top right, and I really did it. So the top of the quilt, I put it on the horizontal, not on the vertical. And I had to go and fix that. Yeah, it was just the worst. That was the worst situation. Hold on one second. Okay, let me look at something. Let me see. Making sure that I'm live. Well, of course I'm live because I see. Yeah, ripping out whole pots. Get a good Netflix video. I used to cry too. I used to get stomach aches. I used to get, oh my God, I'm having a stomach ache. I can't believe this is happening to me. I'm trying to see if of you all. Let me see if I'm going live right now. I am going live, but hold on, let me see. Thank you for telling me I'm sweet. I try really hard to be kind. Yeah, I used to get stomach aches and I used to get cold sweats when that kind of stuff would happen because it was just such a hard thing to fix. And then one day, I think I had a military quilt. I'm like, you know what? What if I didn't pick like 10 of the 2 inches or 3 inches? He'd set it and then do the whole line. And I figured out that trick. But I figured out that trick screwing stuff up. Okay, so, okay. I sent. Does a long arm want the minky fabric to be cut to size? Let's say, for example, let's say you brought me a minky fabric and your quilt was 50 by 50 and the minky fabric is 70 by 60. To me, I don't care. I would literally just quilt your quilt within that space of your minky. And then I ask my clients if they want me to trim it, and I'll just trim it for them. Some long armors, I just think long armors, and I'm not trying to trash long armors, but there are out there that some long armors find any reason to charge you for nothing. For example, I had on this client's quilt, the green one. Let me put you here. On that green quilt that you see, my client just literally gave me a bolt of fabric. She said, here. And I had to piece the back fabric. One of the reasons why I didn't do live stream sooner, because it took me like an hour to piece her back fabric to make sure that I had enough 120 to make it long enough. And then I needed to make sure that I had 99 to make it wide enough. And so my rule is I need 7 inches. So 3.5 inches on each side of the fabric, 3.5 inches on the top and bottom. And the reason I have that rule is I need clamping space And I also feel like I need space for the quilt to have room to draw in. So the quilt itself is going to draw in maybe an inch or two depending on the density of the design, meaning it shrinks, right? It shrinks in height and it shrinks in width. It'll shrink in a little bit, and it'll shrink in some because the top layer of the batting kind of gives it a little bit more thickness, so it shrinks. And so I want to make sure that within that shrinkage, I have enough fabric to work with. So sometimes I just allow myself to have 2.5 inches, maybe 3 on each side. I'll work either way. But some long armors want specifics, like they'll charge you for ironing. I have some clients that I have the perfectionist client that everything's ironed to perfection. And then I have a client who just handed me the quilt, and in her, she's like, "You're lucky I finished it," kind of attitude. And you could see, let's see, some of her seams are not perfect, or like on this green one, she ended up having like, she sews a number on it and sews a piece of paper on there, and it's just a basting stitch. It had that everywhere when I was quilting it, and so I was unstitching all those little papers for her, and she just doesn't care. She's like a hippie quilter. I kind of call them like hippie quilters. Like they're not too serious about their work. And also too, I think those kind of quilt long arm clients are the best clients because they appreciate your perfectionism, because they're not. And so she says, "Oh my God, my quilt looks better than when I gave it to you." She sometimes gives me quilts that aren't trimmed down, meaning there's like a weird piece of fabric on a corner that she didn't put right. And you could be a long armor that can get frustrated with that stuff. So, or you could be just a long armor that's like, "I'm just gonna work, and I'm gonna, because it's a job, I'm gonna just take the papers off. I'm gonna build her back fabric. I'm gonna just take care of her." And I think if you just take care of the client, this lady really isn't a piecer, but I did such good work for her. She literally sat down and saw how beautiful her first quilt was after I long armed it, that she's sitting down and she's making these big giant quilts, and she's bringing me the business. And so I guess you need to find a long armor that either fits you, fits your way, or have a long armor that is just so flexible and easygoing that she'll work with you. Like I know a couple long armors that are the worst people, and I know they watch my channel. They take advantage of their clients. They charge $3-4 per bobbin, or $2.50 per bobbin, which I think is a thread ripoff. One of them said, "Oh, I had to fix a seam." And I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "Lorena, how much do you think I should charge for fixing a seam?" And I said, "Nothing, just fix the seam." Or another one will say like, I'm not going to trim my client's quilt for free, so I'm going to charge them $15-20 to trim their quilt. And I'm like, okay, but you find a long armor that fits you, and just fits you. And there's some wonderful long armors that have their long arm quilting machines, and they want work, but because the other people go to quilt guilds, quilting communities, they kind of have like a hold on those people. And maybe this long armor doesn't go to any of them, and I don't. I literally left the Grange. There, it was a Quilts of Valor, and I was going to a quilt shop here in Shirts, and that quilt shop, it had the most catty women, and it was just the worst experience. So you're just gonna have to find somebody that, if you're okay with a nitpicker, like, "Oh, you didn't." So for her, this client, the batting wasn't enough. She didn't have enough batting. I could charge her $10 for not having enough batting. I could charge her $10 for not making doing the back fabric. I could charge her, $10 for sewing the one seam, and I could like rack up the bill. Or I ended up having an extra bag of batting, and she was only probably like 10 inches off. I needed like maybe 2 or 3 inches more of batting, which is like a strip of batting. I ended up using a big bag of batting that was 120 by 120. And so a big chunk of that batting I'm going to trim off and keep it. And she was just short. It was a mistake. And honestly, I'm not going to charge her for it. I don't care that much. Like, I think kindness goes a long way. And I know that this client has loved me and been good to me and is bringing work to me. And it's consistent work. And it's like, I'm making another quilt and I'm bringing it to you. I love you. And giving her 3 inches worth of batting that goes all the way across that I have a scrap of is not worth losing her by just charging her $10. It's not worth the $10 I could get out of it. But some people don't care. They don't give nothing for free, and they want everything. Like, they want their money. Uh, they just, and I don't think, I don't know. I have a thing about it, okay? So let's see. Let me read your comments. You put painter's tape on the edge of the minky when you... Okay, that's smart. That's a good idea. I'll try it. The painter's tape. Let me put her comment out there. Can you see her comment? Maybe not. She's saying that she puts painter's tape on the minky so that it doesn't stretch and she has enough backing without the stretching. No, I think you have a right to speak up for yourself, especially for a quilt. And I think a client, like, the quilt, the video that I did for a client, the one where I put the binding on the long arm. I ended up putting a client, that was her quilt, and I wanted to try this technique, and she literally came back to me and said, please don't ever do that for me again. I think that what happened is she starched the heck out of the binding fabric. And then when I was sewing it, I think maybe I came in too much, and that was really hard for her to fold it over, so she had to undo it. And that was a mistake on my part. And I said, well, what I'll do is I'll give you a discount. I will, because I charged her for putting on that binding. I said, I'll give you your money back, because if you're having to undo something that I did for you, then I don't deserve the pay for it. And she's like, no, I don't want you to pay me for it, or I don't want you to reimburse me for it. But I feel like the right thing to do would be to reimburse her in some way, because she didn't like what I did and I don't deserve the pay for it. So I think long armors need to have that mind. If a client doesn't like what I've done, either I could fix it or I could reimburse the client for their money. But yeah, I did the video where I put the binding on with the long arm, and I only did it on her quilt because her quilt was so squared up and it was so starched. It was so nice. But she came back and she wasn't happy with it. And maybe it wasn't even my fault. It could have been that the binding was so starched and then the quilt was so starched that it was hard for her to roll it over. But it doesn't matter. I told her I would reimburse her for whatever I charged her to do that. I would reimburse her. And she's like, not worrying. Anyway, I think you should just do the right thing no matter what, even if it costs you. If it costs you and you do right by that client, then that client can trust you to tell another person about your work and that you're trustworthy, especially like with the quilt that some of the quilts that I've made, I've paid like $300 just on fabric. And then I'm going to have a long armor who's going to do a horrible job. Like, no. As a matter of fact, there was a lady who long-armed a quilt for someone, and the lady took her to court. And the long armor had to reimburse the lady for not doing a good job. But it was a civil lawsuit. I'm glad you get to work from home. How do I store my long arm thread? I don't store my long arm thread. I think, okay, I have my long arm thread. Let me, just laying, I have it on shelves. I have it to where this room has a lot of light, but no direct sunlight is hitting my thread. Someone was telling me, we had a whole conversation about thread. I have a lot of embroidery thread because I have embroidery machines. And I've had thread for like 20 years. Let me keep on my... Come on, sweetie. Okay, I've had thread for 20 years. They said that thread gets old. I don't think thread gets old. I think the top layer of the thread gets brittle. And so I have a rule or technique. And then I think Linda's Electric Quilting saw my videos and created something with my idea, but it's okay. Let me share with you. Let me go get it. I'm getting the thread. And you could do this with any thread. So what happens with certain threads, sorry I left. Certain threads have polyester in it, and that means that the top layer gets brittle. And so if you have an embroidery machine and your thread is popping a lot, it means that it's the top layer that gets a lot of air, cold, hot, whatever, because it's polyester, it has the ability to get brittle and it starts to pop on you a lot more. So when I do embroidery work, initially, sometimes the thread is so old. Hold on. Come on. Let me put you down. You want to see her? Because she's so cute. The thread, so someone was saying, well, the thread is old. That's not necessarily true. It just means that the top layer of the thread has kind of like been in the outside, in the environment, and it may seem like it's old, and so you should throw away a whole spool of thread. Now my thread's like, this spool of thread is like $30. No, this is why I lie. But I have King Tut. It's $30 at Superior Thread, which is expensive ass thread. Sorry, I'm saying it that way. So there's no way in hell I'm throwing away my thread. And I also do this with embroidery, and I also do this with sewing thread. Someone called this they had a thread conditioner. The reason I make that face is because they want to sell you stupid stuff. And it's just what it is. It's an oil that you could put. So I could get, this is an oil, a machine oil, and it's an oil dropper. And what I would do, and this I do this constantly on embroidery thread, is I get a thread line and I make a line of oil. What this does, when it starts unraveling on your long arm, it starts conditioning all the threads underneath, and it starts putting oil on the thread line, and it allows the thread to get conditioned, because when it sits out, of course, the top layer can get brittle, but as it starts unraveling, it gets warm and it stops breaking on you. I tend to have that problem more on embroidery thread than I do on quilting thread, because quilting thread has a lot more cotton in it than it does polyester. But embroidery thread has a lot more polyester in it. So I did a video of this, and now Linda's Electric Quilting has a conditioning thread, a conditioning oil that you put on your thread so your thread doesn't pop on you anymore. I think the conditioning oil is $20. You could use oil, your machine oil, and it saves you money. But that's my rule. And so let's say I'm doing an embroidery job and the thread keeps breaking on me. I'll literally get oil dropper and do what I just did. And then it starts unrolling and it starts conditioning the thread. It may still break a little bit, but after like 2-3 minutes, the thread itself gets warmed up, weirdly warmed up, and then it stops. It has like oil, and the oil itself lets it stretch and pull through the tensioners, and then it stops breaking on you. So you don't have to be so finicky about and let me just, I'm a nobody. I'm not a thread chemist. I don't make thread. I don't know, like I'm not, but I've long armed with tons of thread. I've embroidered with tons of thread, and I've never stored my thread. ever. I have it on a shelf. I have it where I could see it. I have it where I could grab it. The lint from the batting gets on it. It sits out in a public view. I also use an alternate. I like using my thread as an art installation, even though in the forums and in the quilting community, you have to store your thread. You can't have light sitting on your thread. And I think it's a whole bunch of bulllarky because they just want to create rules for stupid stuff that don't matter. But let me show you my thread. Let me turn you around. It's right there. Let's see. There it is. That's how I store my thread. And I want to encourage you, like, I don't know, if you want to store it. I know a lady had hers in bins, and I think when you have it in bins, it gets tangled up. You don't tend to use it as much because, like, I have like a lot of like thread in drawers and stuff, and I don't tend to see them, so I don't tend to use them. If I have them out on a wall and I'm showcasing them, I notice that I use all my threads. They're available. So I think it's up to you. But what I've learned is having my threads out is no different than having them in a drawer. That's what I've learned. And I've long arms. I've had a long arm since 2009, and I've done embroidery since 2000. So, and I have, if you see my old videos, my embroidery videos, you'll see I had my threads in those little spool racks. And to this day, I still have them that way. The only thing I've noticed is when I start doing embroidery, because I have downstairs extremely cold, the polyester gets a little bit brittle is the word. And so once I oil it, and I promise, try this technique. Once you oil it, it gives that viscosity or stretching ability, and it doesn't pop on you anymore. And then as it starts unrolling, the bottom layers are not as brittle because they're not out in the environment, and then they work really well. So I want to just quilters. Okay, let's see. Yes, I'll do it. I have a couple videos of me quilting with Minky quilts. I do have them. So if you look on the search bar, as a matter of fact, I have one where the Minky is kind of rolled up. But yes, I have tons of videos. Just, you can literally, oh my gosh. I have one where I did a heart quilt with Minky fabric. I think they're the best. I also did a video on Minky bearding, where the Minky is going up to the top of the quilt. And I think that's the title, Minky bearding. Thank you. I'm glad you got to. Stop barking. Hold on, let me see. Hold on. Go outside. Why? Oh, Terrifier. All right, hold on. Look, I want to show you what she just did, and I'm not paying attention to her. She's so bad. Look, you're not paying attention to me. All right, I'll punish you by puncturing a hole on my new bed. What? Okay, let me answer more of your questions. I'm glad you guys like my videos. Please subscribe if you're not subscribed. Please go to Lorena's Lasers too if you would like. I need to make videos there. I did business cards. I did metal business cards there. Oh, let me see. Basting your quilt is wonderful. As a matter of fact, I used to baste the sides before because I would sew it down, and then I would find out that I had like a border that was rippling, and then I would have to unstitch regular stitches. So basting works, and I understand. When I do custom quilting, I found that basting is the best thing. I'm answering Deborah's quilt question. Yes, I only based, and I understand because I have a computerized system, I only based the two sides, the top where I sew the sides and the top, and then let the quilt design in front of it. If you're going to be like stitching in the ditch and stuff like that, I based everywhere, and then so I could control the quilt. I charge $10 to piece the batting. Yeah, you do you. It all depends. I'm not doing it for my client. It's annoying though, but you do you. We all have our own system, and you have your clients. But I'm talking about, I have some here in shirts in San Antonio. Some people charge like $4 or $5 for bobbins. That means if I use 5 bobbins, that means I'm charging $20 for a thread spool, $20 for the thread. And I think this is where it's unfair. I'm gonna be honest. I could buy a spool if you, I could buy this thread for maybe $20, and then I could give it to a long armer and have her long arm 2 or 3 other quilts for me with the same thread. The problem with that is some long armers are so desperate to charge for the thread that they're not willing to be flexible with their clients and allow their clients to buy their own thread and save that $20 by using, hey, can you use my thread? And they said, I'm sorry, that's not the kind of thread that I use. And then you can go to the long armor and say, okay, what kind of thread do you use so I could buy my own spool? I know a client who uses, it's this real cheap, stupid polyester thread that should be used for embroidery, and they use it for quilting. And so they turn around and they say, well, this is the thread I use. And then the client can say, well, can I buy the thread for myself and bring you the thread of my quilt, and will you quilt my quilt? That long armor tends to say, no, you have to use my thread. Well, yeah, but what if I buy my thread? And I think that's where it's a game. It's a money game. For example, I had a client one time who didn't want to pay me $5 or $6 for my thread, and I understand it. So she went and bought these little spools. And she bought one spool for one quilt, one spool for another quilt. And she, these are $2.50 or $3. At the time, they were 75 cents. And she used this spool, and I let her. Some people can't afford $20 thread per quilt. I mean, if you have 4 quilts that you bring a long armor, that's $80 just for thread. I think that's a ripoff. I think that's a con job, and I'm sorry. And I'm sorry. That's just my personal opinion. So I was charging my client $5 for the thread for me to long arm her quilts. And the next time she just came, she says, can you use my thread? And I said, yeah, because for her, she's saving money. This cost her, I think at the time, $1.25, because this was years ago. And I used her thread, and I gave that flexibility to her because she didn't like the fact that she was paying me probably $25 for 5 quilts on thread. And so she found an easier, cheaper way for her. And I think we as long armors have to be fair to our clients and give them that option. And that's all I'm saying. But I think like one of them used to be my friend, and she's not no friend no more. And she turns around and she goes, well, I charge for the bobbins. And I said, well, what if the client wants to bring you their own thread? She goes, oh no, I'm not doing that. And I go, well, that's not fair. That's where I'm saying it's not fair. Where we as long armors, like, this is not no cheap job. No, like, for example, that green quilt, let me just show you that. This green quilt, right, the one that I just fixed. Here, I'll show it to you. This one, right? This green quilt, all the fabric that she bought at Joann's, and it's really inexpensive fabric. She didn't go all the way and spend a lot of fabric. But for me to long arm it, because it's such a large quilt, I'm charging her $300. It comes out to $300 just to long arm it. Yeah, I'm making $300 for 4 hours to long arm her quilt for her. I don't like it's to me, it like blows my mind that somebody's willing to pay me $300 to long arm for them. And then if I'm adding $10 for the back fabric, $10 for the fixing, $10 for other stuff, it just like it's extraordinarily expensive to get a quilt quilted. And so in my heart, I want to like love her and not make it more burdensome for her. And I think that's how you keep clients, because this is not just a long arm quilting is not just a $10 thing. It's a couple $100 things. And I guess that's why, so if my client would have said, I'm going to bring my own thread to save me some money, I would say, okay, you bring your thread and I'll use it, because I'm charging you so much money already for the quilting. And that's what I'm talking about. Some long armers are so set and in their idea of this is how I'm going to make money and this is how I'm going to make money, and it's fine. But what happens is if I charge her $300 for long arm, plus I add another 50, let's say for the tax is going to be $25 on her, because I'm going to have to charge her tax because I have to pay taxes to Texas. So she's going to pay taxes. So that's $25 plus I add another 30 to it. So now this quilt comes out to $350. Like, dang. Like, wow, that's a lot of money. And it's a privilege for me to have her as a client, that she's willing to give me that kind of a job. It's a great job. But I also, what I'm going to do is I'm not going to charge her for piecing the back, which I should or I could. And I'm not going to charge her for the extra batting I put on there. I could, and I maybe should. And maybe I'm not a good business person, but I want you to keep this in mind, because I'm being good to her. I'm going to say, I'm not going to charge you for the back, and I'm not charging you for the batting. I'm just going to let you, it's a blessing that I got $300 off of just long arming it. So what she's going to see is that I'm not out to poke her eyes out or out to get her, that she literally, and I did that with her other quilts, that she literally has made 4 more for me. So the $30 is not worth the other $300 I may get with the work from her. I don't think the $10 are worth it when she's going to bring me 2 other quilts and she's going to bring me other work, and she's willing to spend another $200 for me. So who cares about the $10 I gave her? And I think that's better business. But I have friends. I go, well, what if she goes, how dare, they complain about the clients. How dare the client want to use a different thread? I go, they're trying to save money and be good to them. The lady who she used this stupid $2 thread. I think this thread is the best long arm quilting thread. I love this thread. Will it focus on it? I think it's Connections thread, Essentials thread. Oh my God. Because now I buy these so that I could have a variety of different threads, because it's such a cheap thread and it long arms so beautifully, and it's 100% cotton. Like, man, it was a win for me. But maybe I lost $5 for the next 10 quilts that she brought me for thread charges, but she brought her own thread, and then I found a little treasure in using this thread. That's all I'm saying. But I have a long armor friend who lives in San Antonio. She's the most crooked person I've ever met. And I'm just saying this. She asked me if I would help her long arm one of her quilts. So I had her come and I put her quilt on the long arm. I ended up using her thread. She bought her thread. Praise the Lord. She brought her thread. And then I've never seen someone do this. I think this is stupid. She turned around. You know how you wind all the bobbins? I've never seen someone do this. I had half a bobbin left over of her thread. And she turns around and tied a knot and started rolling it back on her spool. Now, she had an ANOVA, and what happened is when she rolled the thing, the pattern shrunk on her, so she couldn't quilt the other half of the quilt because she lost space. So I put it on my long arm. I long armed the rest of the other half of the quilt for her for free. And she's such a miser. This is what the stuff that gets me mad with people. Like, it's stupid. She tied a knot to her thread and she literally unspooled the bobbin. Because how dare I keep half a wound spool of her thread when I should have charged her for long arming it. And she gets mad because she wonders why she can't keep her clients. Because she does that to her clients, and her clients feel that. That's all I'm saying. Long armors, I really think it's a better win if I don't charge her for doing her back fabric, but I could say, hey, I did your back fabric and didn't charge you. I could have charged you like $15 to do it. I could have charged you for this, but you know what? You're such a great client. I'm just going to let you take it. I really love you and appreciate you for coming to me. What would that client feel? That client would feel like, wow, Lorena just blessed me. And you know what? When I have another quilt, I'm going to make sure I go to Lorena because Lorena didn't go out of her way to poke everything out of me. That's just my opinion. I'm just sorry, getting a little winded. But you do you. Everybody could charge however they want. That's the beauty of having your own business. But I think we as long armors should understand such a privilege of being able to quilts for people and being able to get paid what we get paid for quilting for people. And also too, like I have clients that have died on me. As a matter of fact, I did a 24-hour live, and one of my clients could not afford to long arm her quilts. And she died with having 10 of them not quilted. Beautifully pieced quilts. 10 of them were never quilted. And one of the things I do for my clients sometimes, I'll do specials, bring me 3 quilts, I'll give you the 4th one for free. Or I will do, bring me 3 quilts and I'll give you the batting for free, because I want to encourage people to get their quilts finished so that when they die, their kids are not selling them with a bunch of fabric for 10 cents. And it was such a privilege to find her quilts, and it was such a privilege to long arm her quilts on the 24-hour live that I did. And it was such a privilege to give all those quilts away to random strangers and have those quilts being used by people. But that's my just point of view. Like, there's money to be made out there, but be good to people. I don't know. People. Yes, I do tell my, okay, so if my mistake looks like it doesn't exist, I don't tell my clients. So for example, I'm going to go and unstitch, like restitch some areas and clean it up. If it doesn't, you can't see it, I'm not going to tell my client. If you can notice it, I will let my client know. And a lot of times, like for example, I did this mistake, right? I will turn around and I never tell my client that I've made a mistake until I finish fixing it. Because if you tell them prior, they go into a panic and they freak out. And they don't trust that you could fix it, so you just lost them as a client. You just lost them completely. But if you have fixed it and you can show them that you fixed it, and they're not even going to notice that you fixed it, but you let them know, then they start getting this confidence about you, like, oh, you know what, Lorena just handled it for me, and they know that you can handle problems or whatever goes on. But a lot of times, like I'm going to fix it and clean it up on the front because you kind of can see a lot of like a thread nest. I'm going to clean it up in some areas where I didn't connect it right. I'm going to fix it. I may show her like, hey, this is what happened. I had to fix this area. And she's probably going to look at it and not even see the mistake. But because I'm like on top of it, I know the mistake. And she's probably going to say, don't worry about it. But if I fix it and I don't even see it when I go like this, then I won't say anything. But if I can see it, like one time my long arm got caught on something and it pulled on the thing and the thread, it literally tore the thread. And I ended up hand stitching it. and you could see like a little bit of hand stitching where I tried to fix the little tiny rip. Yes, I would tell my client that that did happen, and that thread, the fabric got caught, and that happened. And some clients, I've literally, I think there was like a little hole that happened, and I fixed it and I threaded it. My client's like, whatever. And I gave her a $300 quilt for free. I gave her the work for free because I couldn't, like, you could see that there was a hole. Now, she could put the label there and it would disappear and it doesn't exist. But because and it was like the hole the size of my pinky, like the circle. And I just kind of like did some embroidery, like hand stitching on it. So yes, I did tell my clients. But if it's something that doesn't even look like it's a mistake, no. Lots of love. Yeah, wavy borders. Yes, Alexandra, be the kindest long armor. I've had clients die on me. They were like family. Oh, wait, hold on, I'm sorry. I had a client one time. I was going to college, and she would bring me her quilts, and it was so sad seeing her deteriorate because she would walk in at first, and she would walk in and she'd ask me about me going to college, and then I was in the second year, she ended up coming in a walker, and then the third year I was going to college, she was in a wheelchair, and at the time for her, and I would only do it for this client, I would quilt 3 quilts for her and give her the 4th one for free. Or I think I was bring me 3, 1 for free, the smallest for free. And if they were all the same size, she got a deal on one of them. And so she would bring me 3 quilts every month. Every month. And that was like continuous work. To have a client like that is the best thing ever. Hold on. And then, let me say, then it got to the point that her husband was the one bringing me her quilts with her paper notes and her paper instructions on how she wanted everything quilted. And all, like, come on. Are you going to sit with me or not? Leave me alone. Leave me alone. And then it got one year, she ended up having seizures. Come on. Come on. She ended up having seizures. And what she did, she ended up being paralyzed in a wheelchair, and she had seizures. And then she turned around, and they were going through all her quilt stuff, and she'd make sure she'd bring me 3 and get the 1 for free. And he called me one day and he said, his name was Herb, E-R-B. Yeah, he says, I'm letting you know that we're not going to come anymore because she's not here. She had a seizure, and she had a stroke in the seizure and died. And it was so sad, but it was so pretty that he called me to let me know. And he called me and thanked me. He says, I want you to know that because you quilted her quilts for her and you gave her such a good deal, he told me, he said, all her grandchildren got quilts, all her children got quilts, her nephews got quilts. Like, it also gave her a reason to be active. So every month she would pop out 3 quilts so that she could have quilts to get done and give to her family. And he told me, like, I know you could have charged us more, and I know you could have, like, charged us for every single quilt, but I want to thank you that she ended up being so excited that every month she got 3 quilts that were quilted and done, and every month she'd start a new project, excited to get you the other quilts. And I just thought that was such a neat, I don't know, like, investment in her, where it made her excited to do something. And it was such a blessing for me to be part of her life, because she would encourage me to go to college and finish college and get things done. And man, it was just, and I would get discouraged because school was hard for me because I'm not the most best speller. You can see sometimes I screw up in my spelling, and she was like, it doesn't matter, you just keep on trying and you do this for you. And I graduated at 42, and that's literally 10 years ago. And yeah, I long armed her probably for 7 years. And yeah, she was just one of those neat clients, and you'll have some of them. So, and I think because I don't know, Let me see, am I missing somebody? I'm reading your notes or comments, okay? Let me go all the way down because some of you are here. Yes. I think my dogs are cold. That's great that you got 13 quilts done. Carol, is that your name, right? Carol Joy? Thank you for giving me love and thumbs up. I appreciate it. Just Jones. Yes, they trust you. You know what's hard? I think embroidery is harder because they'll send you like a $40 or $100 jacket, leather jacket, and they want you to embroider their name on it. Don't screw that up. You are producing a lot of quilts. I wish I was still making a lot of quilts. I'm so excited about the block swap. I'm going to get everything all ready for me to do like 3 of the block swaps. Even though I'm not going to participate in every group, but I'm going to do 4 groups because I have 4 groups just in case someone bails on me and I could be part of the group. Anyway, but I'm so excited that I'm going to be piecing. Aye, girl. It's expensive, long arm quilting. Yes, long armers do need to make a living. But I also think long armers should understand the privilege of having a long arm. Sometimes lately this year, I've had issues with, I don't know. I don't even think it's depression. I don't know what the hell it is. But it's almost like I'm not okay, like here in my brain. And then I'm like, God, you have such a privilege. I remember when I wanted a long arm, and I wanted a long arm so bad. And I'm so thankful for God to give me the long arm. I would have never thought that this would have been a thing. And the privilege of being able to do it. But if you're a long armor and you're out there, I'm not trying to be mean. I just think we all need to just... Well, I asked God to give me a long arm, and I said, God, if you give me a long arm, I'll do quilts for free for people. And I have. Because, I don't know. I also told God that if he gave me a long arm, I would be praying for the quilts that I'm long arming for people. So I pray for the quilts, and I pray for my clients, and I pray for them. Because I think it's such a privilege to have what I have. But yes, let's see. What oil do you use? Okay, you want to see my long arm quilting oil? Hold on. I just bought it. Hold on. The oil. Let me get you the oil. I'm going to turn this off. Because I don't need her. Dun, dun, dun. Let me show you. I just got this oil. Okay. This is the Gamma machine oil. I literally ordered. The reason I got this is because I broke my jump spring. Hold on. But let me share this. I don't think it was very expensive. Let me see my other oil. Sorry, I'm not in frame. But I'm looking for my oil. There is another oil that I got at... Where did I get it? And where did I put it? It is a oil that when you put it on fabric, it doesn't stain your fabric. And I got it. Where are you? Where did I put it? I'm looking for it. I'm sorry. Hold on. I guess I think that long arm quilting could be a ministry. Isn't that weird? Well, I think it is a ministry. I'm looking for the oil. Yes, there it is. Hey, no running outside. I got this. This one. Hopefully it's focused. Is it focused? The other live stream, guys, tell me if I'm not focused. Please comment to me. Let it know. You're not focused. We can't see you clearly. because a lot of the live stream, the other camera wouldn't go on focus. It's so stupid. They say that this has a low viscosity and it's for all machines, for embroidery, for sewing machines. So I assume that this would also work with my long arm. They say that this oil, it's colorless and it minimizes stains. That's why I got it, to try it out. And it's www.allstitch.com is where I got it. It's down here. Wait. Do you see that? That's where I got it. But recently I ended up, my check spring broke. I don't know. I did a video, I think a couple days ago, where my check spring broke. And I went and I had to take the casing off of the long arm because I didn't have an Allen wrench that would unscrew that check spring assembly. So I went on Gamble and they said that where it says they had this oil. So, but I was using this one because they say that this does not stain your fabric, but this one predominantly says it's made for an embroidery machine. So I may use it downstairs, but you could also use this for a sewing machine. And the reason, oiling your embroidery machine, especially on the bobbin area, sometimes when it starts embroidering, the thread grabs, and it leaves like an oil stain. And I think that's why they created this. Sorry if I'm hitting my mic. But I was using this for my long arm because I felt like when I oil the machine and I oil the bobbin, sometimes the same thing happens. And I noticed with this one, if I wet the oil with like water and just rub it, it disappears quickly. If I have oil on a client's quilt, where are you? Hold on, I'm sorry. This oil, if oil gets on a client's quilt, it does not come off as easily. Proxy. So I use this. I think I did a video of this where I let oil stain the fabric, and then so if any oil gets on my client's quilt right away, I put this on there, and I use a batting, and I wet the batting with water and start rubbing that quilt to remove the oil stain. This, I think, is the best oil remover or stain remover you can have. And this really works. You can literally put this on there with a toothbrush and brush it, and it removes this oil stain. But I got this, and I don't have to use this. You could just get like a cotton with like a little bit of water and soap and just rub it off, and it disappears. It says colorless, minimizing stains. But that's why I got it. But that's my oil. Hold on. Oh, you wash your clients' quilts? You go, girl. Mm-mm. Oh, that's wonderful, but no. I only did that for... Who did I do that for? I got an antique quilt from a client, and that quilt smelled so bad. She asked me this question. Hopefully I'll post. Do I do charity quilts? You do small. I do too. I do a lady, her name is Roxy. This year she didn't send me that many quilts because I think last year we sent her so many. But I have a friend who makes little quilts. And she makes the tops, and also a lady, her name is Roxanne, and she's in Dallas. She'll bring me some of the little quilt tops, and I'll long arm for her. And then she takes them to hospitals for children who have illnesses. So I do that kind of charity work. Also too, when I find antique quilts that are left around, or that client who her quilts were just left around, I'll go ahead and I'll long arm them, and then I'll give them away, not to a charity, but to a random person who I don't think will ever have a quilt, and I'll donate. I'll just give them away. That's the best thing. When I had a cardinal quilt that was Christmassy, and anyway, If you do this 20-hour live, you'll see it was a Christmas quilt. It was half square triangles, and it was a huge quilt. And I long armed it, and I met a lady at Denny's. She was a manager, and she said her daughter died. No, she said her sister died of breast cancer, and her sister loved Christmas, and her sister loved Cardinals. And out of nowhere, I had the quilt in my car, and I brought it out into the Denny's table, and I gave it to the manager, and the manager just started crying because I gave her a quilt that represented her sister. I think she was missing her sister and missing that she wasn't here and that we were going into the holidays. I think that was the best thing ever. And I know that lady's going to love it because it represents her sister who died of cancer, who loved Christmas and cardinals. I thought that was best. So yes, let me see. One more question. Let's see. Yes, know the wisdom of what we're doing. Yes. I know we've been here on the live for a while, and I'm going to let you go, okay? Okay. I'm going to let you go. Thank you for coming with me. Thank you for helping me hanging out with me to fix this. Let me see. If you guys have any more comments, let me see. I love that you wash their quilts. You go. I hope you love your fabric. I'm excited about the block swap. And we have 4 groups on the block swap. Some people said they want to do the block swap, but they don't have, well, if we could get 12 more people, we could get another group to do the block swap. But we need 12 people or 11. My dogs are tired. But yes, thank you for hanging with me. Thank you for being with me. Let me get some people's comments need to. I think I put someone's comment on here and I don't know how to take it off. Oh, there it is. What? The tension disc. Okay, let me show you. You asked me about the tension disc. Her name is Debbie. Debbie's Quilting Studio. Okay. Hold on, let me get it for you, okay? Let me get you. I just, Nope. Sorry. Oh, come on, Gary. Sorry, my Garys. So, on my long arm, there is called a, what is it called? Hold on. It's a check spring. And the check spring controls the top tension on your long arm. Let me see if I can find it. Where are you? So I went on Gamel. And this is called the check spring assembly. Right here. And it has this spring. If you watch my videos, I shared it. It has this spring and this controls the tension on the long arm, on the top tension. And honestly, apparently you're supposed to change the spring every year. I think I changed this one into a brand new one in 2018. So what's that? 6 years ago. So it has washers. It has like 2 washers, a washer here, a washer there. And it also has like little check springs. And these are just, they're tensioners for your top thread. They literally control you. If you have a Gamel or even any long arm, they control loops and so that you have really good tension. You have tensioners on your sewing machine on the front, and you know, like some of you have the knob, like this one has a tensioner on the front, and it kind of looks like this, but they're just thread tensioners for your top thread. So that it grabs your bobbin thread properly. So this is the inside part of the check spring. I can't even hold it. like that. So you don't have to buy, I didn't have to buy a new one, but I bought a brand new one, and this is called a check spring assembly. But you could literally take the check spring assembly apart and put just one of these new springs on there. And then you also have these are parts to build a check spring. So like this is an old one. Let me see. And mine broke. And I, thank God, I'm not a hoarder. My son says I am, but I'm not. Thank God I buy extra of everything. I buy extra of everything, whether I'm going to use it or not. And so when, I think in 2018, I literally replaced the washer and the things and fixed my old one and added brand new parts to it. But then I went ahead and went to Gamma and bought a brand new one, a new assembly. And then I think I took the old one that I put all the new components on and put the new assembly on. And then I fixed the old one. Anyway, yeah, have extras of whatever tools you have, so that I was quilting my block swap quilt. I did a live stream, and then I was going to finish it when I got off the live stream, and the spring just broke on me. It was so frustrating. Or it broke on me the day I wanted to do the live stream, and then I couldn't. If you don't have this spring, you can't quilt anymore. You don't have no tension then. And so have parts of your quilt. But that's what the check spring assembly was, as someone was asking. And I was so happy that I bought an extra assembly and that I had built it up. So when I took it out of this casing, I put the new assembly in. And I was like, man, because that broke on me, if I finished all my clients' quilts, so I've kind of taken like a break. These are other clients, and they said they weren't in a hurry for them. And I took some time off, man. I'm trying to get my head right. But I was quilting that block swap quilt, and then that check spring broke, and then I have these clients' quilts. I'm like, I can't even do my clients' quilts. But thank God, Lorena from last year, 2018, buying extra was such a godsend, because that night I had my husband help me take the assembly off of the casing, and we put a brand new one, and then we tested it and it fixed. But just if you have a long arm, get yourself extra parts. So because of that, I bought extra springs, the springs I just showed you, extra felt washers, extra everything. I even bought a brand new extra assembly, because that will never happen to me. And then that's why I bought the oil, because the feeling when that spring got tangled on the thread and I pulled it and it broke off of me, it just felt like my whole world fell apart, because I'm like, oh my God, what's going to happen? I need to call Gamma. And Gamma was so good. I think it took a week to get here, which is okay. But if I had like 15 quilts to quilt, to call 15 people or 10 people that I'm not going to have their quilts ready for them for Christmas would have been like just the worst thing to do. So get yourself extra parts. But let me answer someone else, and then I'm going to let you go for real. Have a good night. Happy New Year. What are your Happy New Year resolutions? I may do another live tomorrow. I love you. I'm washing your quilts. Or sorry, that's like blowing my mind. Because I'm afraid if I would wash my clients' quilts and then the red bleeds and something happens, that would how would you fix that? I've been quilting for quilting. Honestly, the block swap is a blessing. None of them are perfect. None of them. But I think that's the fun of it. Not having perfect block swaps or blocks. That's like torture. I had one lady on the block swap was complaining about, are all the fabrics, the background fabrics, going to match perfectly? And I'm like, no. And that's a perfectionist in us, right? So, saving money for a long arm. Go you, yes. And I would save money for a long arm that you really want. I'm thankful that I bought the computerized system. And right now they've come out with some really good long arms that have a really good computer. And they're not like, I think now Gamel, Statler, Stitcher, Optimum is $70,000. Yeah, they're expensive. Also, if you're looking for a long arm, there is Long Arm Quilting University or Long Arm Quilting University online. There's a lot of people selling their Gamels or long arm quilting machines, either computerized or non-computerized. I mean, they're selling them for like $5,000, $6,000, $10,000. I know somebody got a robotic system that only cost her $10,000, and it was a Gamel. I didn't have the Statler Stitcher for programming. It had a different program, but she ended up buying it. So there are some beautiful long arms out there for cheap. I know the lady Cat's Meow who sold me her long arm. She's selling her long arm, I think it was $16,000. If I had more room, I'd probably buy another one. I'm like reading. What? Let me get my readers. Hold on. Get a computerized system if you can. Seriously, if you can. My husband was right. I wanted a manual system. I'm so glad I got a computerized system because doing one quilt. Let me just share this just quick before we go. If you get a computerized system, I can quilt 5 quilts in one day. If I was to have a manual quilt, I would probably only be able to quilt 1 quilt a day. It's just sharing. Okay, you're there. Yeah, no, they're expensive. They're worth it though. I've had mine since my Gamel long arm quilting machine, Statler, since 2009, January 9th, 1999. Right? No, January 9th, 2000. When did I get it? No, 2009. 2009. My God. January 9th, 2009 is when I got mine. So we are, shoot guys, 24, 15 years in. And I really do believe my Gamel works like it still works like a brand new machine. But they're worth it. All right. I love you. I'm going to let you go. I hope you have a wonderful new year. And I'm going to try to post another video tomorrow. I'm trying to post. Okay? So I love you. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe. Give me some love. Give me some affection. And please go to Lona's Lasers and subscribe there too if you would like to support me, because I'm trying to grow that channel. Even though I don't post as much as I should. I'm trying. Okay? I love you. All right. Someone asked me one quick question. How do you let people know you are a long arm service? Do I do long arm service? That's a good question. My long arm quilting business has come from word of mouth. So my business has come from people who have a long arm for. That's one. I remember in Hancock Fabrics, there was a lady who sewed there, and I would be there, and her name was Cindy. She worked at Hancock Fabrics here in San Antonio. And one of the things that I would do sometimes is I would go and make flyers. So initially, I would make flyers and I would do summer specials, because a lot of people don't do a lot of quilting in the summer. A lot of my clients, well, now my clients, like, I get it year round, but initially I would have real slow times in the summer. So I'd be probably busy maybe in January still, because it's winter kind of in February over here. And then I would get really busy in September through the end of the year. And so I would go and do a special, and one of the specials was I would bring me 3 quilts. I would quilt one for free, or I would give bring me 3 quilts. I charge you for the quilting, but I would give you the batting for one of them or 2 of them for free, because I would buy batting wholesale. So the batting wasn't that expensive for me, but it was a deal for them because they didn't have to spend $20, $40 for batting, because I was providing batting. And I had a lady who worked at Joann's or Hancock Fabrics. I befriended them, and I would go there frequently, so I became like a person they knew. And then I would give them the flyers and ask them that if they if people would ask them, hey, do you know long armor, if you would give them my card. And I also did embroidery at that time, and I still have that with quilt shops too. And so they'll kind of be a word of mouth for you. And that's how some of it started. And then I still have some quilt shops that have my business cards, and they say that I do embroidery, even though I also do long quilting. So I get clients that way. I am at a Shirt Cibolo kind of community Facebook page. I am known in that Facebook page as the embroiderer to go to, because I used to do a lot of embroidery for youth associations and stuff like that. And I guess show your business cards, talk to people about what you do, pass out flyers and give like really great specials, but only do it for a month. Go to quilt guilds and kind of share what you do there, but it's also like kind of flooded with other people who are long arming, are going to be there too, like a swarm of bees trying to get that business. But once you start working for one client, like a quilter, I've noticed if you treat them well and you do really good work, that quilter will tell her community of quilters, because quilters is a very community-based community thing. Like, we're like little bee workers. And so I did work for one client, and then that client told 3 clients, and then they started coming to me. And then also too, I think social media is the best thing that you could do. Even if you're not doing clients' quilts, do your quilts. Share your long arming on TikTok, on Clapper, on Facebook groups, on Facebook. If you're allowed, I don't allow advertising on my Facebook group in any way, because that's not why I have it open. But share like your work, have pictures, have videos, and just showcase it. And then I remember one time being a line at Joann's, and I asked, talk to people too, like be in line. So what do you do? I go, well, I do this. And I go, what are you making? She's like, I'm making a quilt. Oh yeah, you're making a quilt. I'm a quilter too. And she's like, oh really? Yeah, I'm a quilter. I'm a long armer. And I go, look, this is what I do. And I'll show them a video of me long arming. And they're like, can I have your card? Just talk to people. And I also think you should pray. I think God gives me the work. I pray a lot. I ask God to help me. And I also tell God I don't want work. And then my work dries up and I don't have work. And lately I don't want work right now. I think I need a little bit of I want to do like my own stuff, I kind of gave myself a month or 2 break, where I want to just kind of decompress from long arming, because it's a whole thing. I want to do my own thing on the long arm, not just work for clients. But then I'll say, I really want work, and I'll start asking God to give me the work. And all of a sudden, people will start calling me, and out of nowhere, and then I'm thankful for the work, and I'm really excited. So I go through ebbs and flows. But YouTube has been a blessing. I've had some wonderful subscriber clients who've come to me. I had a subscriber who brings me probably like 2 or 3 quilts, or maybe a quilt a month, or 2 quilts a month. And so, yeah, I think social media, it should be a big thing for you. They see your work, they see the quality of your work, they see who you are and how you think about money. They see your attitude about how you long arm, and yeah, people will just come to you. But for me, it's been a God thing. I never thought I would be having a long arm quilting business or an embroidery business. And like right now, I have a laser, and I don't make a lot of money on the laser, and I'm kind of just enjoying it. But like I made laser business cards, and I'm so excited about it. My son I made him a whole bunch of them for Christmas, but I'm using social media. Like I'm doing videos on the laser, and I've gotten probably 10 jobs on the laser. I did the family tree. I did a video on the family tree for the laser, and I literally had like 5 people ask me if I would just make the templates and not stain the wood or glue it. And so I did probably 10 or 15 jobs. How many have I done? Probably on the Tree of Life, I've done probably 10 of them. And then because they saw that, they asked for other work. And I've been doing work like that. So yeah, I really do appreciate you. I pray you have a wonderful New Year's. And thank you for your time. I think we've been here for forever. All right. Have a wonderful day.